The delegation of Algeria would like to thank the delegation of Indonesia and the Vice Minister for having presented their proposal on important topics with regard to the governance of copyright in the digital environment. Obviously, we recognize the importance of this initiative because we have more and more digital use, and we have challenges in our countries, particularly in developing countries, challenges with regard to transparent and fair payment for authors and rights holders. Algeria considers that this proposal is the opportunity to open constructive and global dialogue on the means and methods by which we could usefully face these challenges and overcome the lacks in digital governance, taking into account all of the aspects, legal, economic, technicals, and national specificities as well, and also a balance within any instrument to be proposed within this framework. We reiterate our support to this initiative, and we will be closely following the discussions on all of these subjects under this agenda. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. We would like to thank the Vice Minister of Indonesia and also the delegation for having presented their proposal. With regard to having binding measures to protect the copyright and digital environment, 47/6, the delegation of Egypt considers that the contents of this proposal reflect major challenges for governance, particularly of revenues for music and audiovisual on digital platforms, and therefore the need to strengthen international rules with regard to the protection of the rights of creators. And in order to ensure that we have equality, universality, and justice with regard to remuneration for recordings and audiovisual performances, particularly on digital platforms.
Furthermore, we would like to thank the distinguished delegation of Indonesia. We take note of their proposal for a legally binding instrument on the governance of copyright royalty in digital environment. We will carefully study the proposal and continue our internal discussions before being ready to further provide views on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. We welcome and appreciate Indonesian delegation, in particular Vice Minister Arif, for detailed, comprehensive, and insightful presentation of the proposal for a legally binding instrument on the governance of copyright royalty in digital environment. Mr. Vice Chair, the rise of the digital environment presents both opportunities and challenges for right holders and the public. A balance must be struck here. My delegation believes that it is of utmost importance to develop effective mechanisms that ensure fair, transparent, and accountable governance of copyright, including royalties and remuneration, while preserving adequate policy space for member states to act in line with their national context, needs, and priorities. We are of the conviction that improving the effectiveness of royalty governance, from addressing fragmentation to developing coherent standards and moving toward a more equitable and transparent global system, is a necessity of the digital era. In this line, we welcome and support in principle Indonesia's proposal. We believe it provides a solid foundation for addressing the critical challenges the digital environment poses to creators and right holders, particularly in developing countries. We consider the Indonesia's initiative as a timely and constructive contribution to the committee's work on equitable royalty governance.
Finally, we thank the delegation of Indonesia for the presentation of its proposal here and within Group B for a legally binding instrument on the governance of copyright, royalty, and digital environment, promoting a fair chance in a globalized world, document SCCR 47/6. Thank you very much.
We thank the delegation of Indonesia for its timely and forward-looking proposal on the governance of copyright royalties in the digital environment. The initiative speaks directly to the realities faced by many developing countries, including Nigeria, whose creative industries are dynamic and globally visible, yet whose creators still struggle to receive fair remuneration for the worldwide use of their works. Our experience is that structural imbalances in the digital ecosystem weakens CMO governance and oversight, opaque and highly concentrated distribution models, and the concentration of data and bargaining power in a few jurisdictions can systematically disadvantage repertoires for the global south. For Nigeria, this is not an abstract concern. Our music and film sectors are among the fastest growing in the world, yet the value they generate is not adequately reflected in royalty flows back to our artists and right holders.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The Philippines thanks Indonesia for its proposal on a possible legally binding instrument on the governance of copyright royalties in the digital environment. We support its broad objectives of promoting fairness, transparency, and more inclusive participation in digital royalty flows, issues that resonate strongly with many developing countries, including the Philippines. We recognize the challenges identified in the proposal, including gaps in royalty collection and distribution systems, disparities in data infrastructure, and structural imbalances between markets in the global north and the global south. These issues merit thoughtful consideration within this committee. We believe the proposal can be further strengthened by clarifying the intended scope of the proposed instrument, particularly the balance between binding obligations and soft law guidance. Additional elaboration is also needed on the envisaged role of WIPO, including how it would relate to existing tools and initiatives, would also help member states assess feasibility. Finally, phased or modular options for strengthening global data systems may enable greater interoperability while taking into account differing national capacities. The Philippines welcomes continued discussion on this proposal and stands ready to engage constructively with Indonesia and other delegations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. Blessings to everybody. I would like to thank Indonesia, and we would like to support both Indonesia and GRULAC. We would also like to congratulate the United States for the position that they have expressed. And the reason I say that is because everybody here is here to defend their interests. And of course, we in developing countries have a lot of artists, and we often need to depend on other countries because developed countries have far more developed systems when it comes to managing the resources of the artists that have the talent. In Latin America, there are countries such as Uruguay, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, Peru, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic itself that could currently be able to manage this in a particular way. The proposal by GRULAC is interesting. However, we cannot give an opinion on it without understanding everything, and that is my proposal as the Dominican Republic. The countries that would like to support this proposal should do this on a voluntary basis, but it should be done within WIPO so that each country that would like to have a point in their legislation to ensure that artists are remunerated are in a same system, so they are all governed by the same rules and regulations as established by WIPO. That means that countries that have a particular interest will also be able to express their interests. That also means that there will be a single remuneration model for the users and rights holders that can be used by the different countries that would like to join this system. Thank you.
We would also like to thank the delegation of Indonesia for their proposal SCCR 47/6, and we take note of this proposal. We need more time to study this proposal more thoroughly. Thank you.
And in this connection, we welcome the proposal from GRULAC and Indonesia. And we thank GRULAC and the delegation of Indonesia for the proposals that they prepared on this. We are not opposed to detailed work on these issues on copyright in the digital environment. We hope that in the future there will be steps for increasing transparency and accountability with respect to collective rights, including through the use of new digital technologies and also with regard to international standards for governance.
Honor of speaking on behalf of the Asia-Pacific Group, we wish to express our appreciation to Indonesia for tabling this important proposal on the governance of copyright royalties in the digital environment. The APG acknowledges the substantial and constructive work undertaken within the SCCR to better understand the complex issues surrounding copyright and related rights in the digital age. Our collective efforts through studies and expert discussion have laid a critical foundation. In this regard, the APG recognizes that one challenge is how to build a balanced IP regime where value generated in the digital marketplace flows back efficiently and fairly to the creators who fuel it. This is a shared global concern, transparency, as well as reflection and realization of the true value of creative work fuels the initiative to create and contribute to the development of individual creators.
Thailand aligns itself with the APG statement delivered by the distinguished delegate of Saudi Arabia and appreciates Indonesia's thoughtful proposal addressing fairness, transparency, inclusiveness in remuneration system for the use of sound recordings, audio-visual works in the digital environments. At the national level, Thailand is preparing a draft act on the collective management organization, which incorporates principles of transparency, fairness, non-discrimination, and require the CMO to make publicly available relevant information. These elements are broadly aligned with the objective presented in Indonesia proposal.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. First, I want to address the Indonesia proposal. We thank the Vice Minister for the presentation today. The United States recognizes the importance of compensation for authors, performers, and other copyright and related rights holders in the digital environment. We also recognize legal, operational, and technical challenges faced by some creators in receiving payments around the world. For example, many countries face challenges such as reliably identifying and locating rights holders for payment. However, while the United States may face similar challenges, we do not believe a global one-size-fits-all solution is possible for several reasons. First, countries have diverse approaches to tackling remuneration challenges, which may be only partially due to differences in their respective copyright systems. Second, our international system, and specifically the WIPO Internet Treaties, intentionally grants contracting parties the freedom to determine how best to implement the protections afforded to authors and performers. Copyright is territorial by nature and by design, so it may respect our different national approaches. A legal global standard, as proposed by Indonesia in its proposal, would appear to undermine the principle that freedom of contract should underlie all IP transactions. The United States has consistently expressed our view that the SCCR is not the proper forum to address marketplace or contractual issues or to resolve matters relating to the relative bargaining power between private parties that may exist in the creative ecosystem. Therefore, the United States does not support the Indonesia proposal to establish legally binding norm setting on the matter of governance of copyright royalties. We do, however, see the value in information sharing around the challenges faced by the music industry. At this time, we do not support the proposal to have WIPO administer a global rights database. However, member states might instead continue to share information about the use of interoperable international standards in rights management or lessons learned through national approaches.
Who would like to take the floor? And I see Indonesia, so please take the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We appreciate the supports from many member states, and we take note on comments and concerns expressed on our proposal. We understand that further work is needed, and we look forward to continue our engagement and discussions on the proposal and the issue of copyright in digital environment in future sessions. With that, I thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Indonesia.